was a very, one can say, I won't say tough, but definitely a very challenging course. And continuously it has been updated, keeping in mind the requirements of the changing banking scenario and the type of professionalism we want in banks. So given that, yes, it's a badge that every banker would like to have very firmly on their collar. And definitely it would not be an easy thing to earn. That is understandable. So we will start with this module, as you know, this human resource management, or HRM as we call it, module B of ABM. This has got units 10 to 16. This is of course known to you. So we will, your classes are also a little scattered, like we have a session tomorrow, then again followed on next Tuesday, and then again with a little gap. So that way also, to keep, the continuity is a little challenging again. We will start by this presentation. So see, the entire topic that will be discussed, let us be pretty clear that in the examination, the pattern is of course asking questions through the case study method. That means we will have pretty long comprehensions which will be giving us a scenario related to the workplace and how the HR department should be acting, what are the initiatives they might have taken, what are the ramifications of those policies and application of whatever HR is doing, what they need to do in order to bring about changes in the workplace. All are the type of questions were asked. Since you've already appeared in the exam or been part of it, I'm sure you are quite, you know the pattern. Now, during our process, we will try and talk about all the various concepts and theories, plus the importance of the HR personnel, the HR personnel's own traits and capabilities that need to be brought in. And likewise, we will be trying to build up profile of individuals working in the organization. Now, profile means I'm not talking about any particular individual, but we will be trying to make up the how HR decides the specialities of employees, how they find out their strong points, the strengths, and how they also discover that what are the weaknesses inherent in the workforce. Because unless we know this, we cannot take the remedial actions. Okay. Now, these concepts will be discussed with the help of various theories also. And apparently, these theories are standalone because they have been propagated by various individuals. But in totality, they are very closely connected because, like I said, that we are ultimately aiming to portray individuals or human beings, isn't it? So, we will be making an attempt to collage these theories, to make a linkage between these theories and concepts so that in the ultimate, in the exam, when we are asked based on these questions, we will not find them sort of disjointed. We will be able to draw the picture properly. So that would be the attempt. Okay. Having said that, let us see that how the process of HR or how the development of HR and its activities, how it has taken place. So we will start with that. So human resources management is an ongoing process. No company can say that we have reached the ultimate way of managing our people. So as per the changing scenario, as per the changing demands of the business, as per the changing demands of customers, and not to forget the aspirations of employees, HR policies need to be redefined time and again. Okay, so we do not have an ultimate HR policy. HRM's job or functions never reach a point of stability. So what is an organization? Let us think. What is an organization? Obviously, it is a place where we have a combination of people from various backgrounds, large in number, who have come together, and they should be working in a harmonious fashion. Their contribution should be in harmony so as to achieve the organizational goal, isn't it? If that be so, then we cannot de-link the people who are working in the organization from the organization itself, because organization per se is doesn't have a being. It may have a name, it may have a vision, it may have a mission, but they by themselves it doesn't mean anything unless we are able to visualize it being represented, all these being represented by the people who run the organization, who work in the organization. Am I right in saying that, Prasad, that SBI by itself may have a very strong brand name, may have a big logo means well recognized logo, but by itself, does it stand for anything? If we de-link the SBI people or all employees from it, it doesn't have any standing, so to say, isn't it? I'm sure whatever the scale of the organization, whatever the position it has in the market, all these things are viewed from the perspective of the employees. That is why employees and organization are equal. An organization is equal to its people. It's a simple statement I'm making, and I think you will agree with me. Now, there are many resources an organization is using to take forward its organizational goal. If you look at from the point of economics, then these resources, we can classify them into finance, very vital for starting any organization. There could be requirement of land. If it's a manufacturing organization, it would require certain raw materials. Today, it is unthinkable to run any organization without the help of technology. So these are very important resources. And then the most important resource, that is the human beings or the employees who will run it, who will use all these resources, make use of all these resources to fulfill the organizational goal. We find that today's environment has been termed as a VUCA environment. You can see the term VUCA on your screen. And VUCA is an acronym that we can expand as to be representing volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Now, each of these terms, I just ask for a quick feedback because we are a very small group. I mean, only it's almost like a one-to-one talking. So I think we can have enough participation. Prasad, does it appear to you that these are mere terms that we are just, putting in as part of the course? Or do you think that these are real business environment? Volatility, complexity, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Sudhakar can also, if I'm just naming Prasad, doesn't mean that he has to talk only, you can also. So, do you think these are realities? Is there volatility? Where changes are very, very fast and unpredictable? That is volatile situation, no? Is this true in the business place today? And if that be so, then it gives rise to uncertainty, because when there is stability, then we know what to do next, how to face things. But if things are uncertain and unpredictable, then running a business or doing anything, that also becomes uncertain. Add to that the complexity. When things are uncertain, we are not sure of what steps to take. In a stable situation, our plans and programs are well laid out and we can follow them. But if things are changing so frequently, in that case, how to act, how to behave, that uncertainty factor, it becomes stronger. And when we are uncertain about how and what to do, in which direction the business is running and what exactly we should be doing, then what happens? That gives rise to, unlike clarity, it gives a situation of ambiguity, opacity. We don't know exactly how to face things. So these are very genuine. I think now you will agree, because you are working and you are facing this situation day to day. So you know it better than I do, probably, that these are not this is not merely a term or not merely an acronym coined out of fancy thoughts. It's not like that. This is a genuine situation that is in the workplace. So we are working in a VUCA environment, and like it or not, we may not be really relishing it, but the fact is that this VUCA environment will persist. And in fact, after the COVID, uh, another term was used before VUCA. It was said accelerated VUCA. That means that rate of change became even more fast. So, given this, we have to operate in this situation. There is no wishing it away. Meaning, we need to have a much more cohesive, stronger, and evolved workforce to face these challenges. So, how we were doing business earlier can no longer be the template on which we want to progress in future. Am I right in saying this? That yes, our strengths are there, our background experience is there, but that alone cannot make us sure that we will continue to navigate the future challenges, isn't it? So, the employee enrichment, so to say, today's world, we are hearing this term uranium enrichment so frequently, maybe not heard it in the last so many years. Okay, but now we hear it so frequently in this prevailing situation. Here we are talking about the need of continuous human enrichment, employee enrichment. For that, we need to have a very robust HR department or human resource management policies. We have to then look a little back in history just to see whether or not the importance of the human resource, that means the weightage being given today to the employees, and for that matter, to the HR activities, because the HR department is engaged in making all arrangements, making all decisions and all that. No? So whether or not equal weightage was given to it since beginning. Now, what do we mean by since beginning? Not since beginning of the earth. We are referring actually to the period when organization like we know today, functional organizations came into being. Now, that is not really a very old history. Organizations as we know today, large, medium, small, whatever the size they are, where people from various backgrounds came together and started working. That actually became very much visible on the global scenario only after the Industrial Revolution. Prior to that, we were largely agrarian society all over the world, largely agrarian society. And of course, there were also very many artisan communities. So they were working on their own volition, and they learned and acted on the basis of learning that they had acquired over generations. So nobody was needed to control and see and oversee how they are working. It was not, they worked out of their own volition. In organizations, this was different. When the factories started getting set up, and people from various backgrounds and almost next to no experience or not even maybe any skills to work in factories came together. So that is the time when many laws, rules, working conditions, abilities, skill sets, all these had to be designed and they had to be taken care of in order to make these people become capable of working in that changed environment, in the factory environment. Earlier, it was not required. So, when we are talking about the importance of HR and the importance of human resource as an important resource, did it start ab initio, right from the time these formal organizations came into being? This is a question I'm asking. Do you think workers were considered to be very important right from those beginning days, those beginning times? Comparing to the other resources. We have named the other resources as well, no? That finance, raw material, even machine, and we had all this, land and all that. So if we are putting all the resources on a scale, how much weightage do you think was given to the human resource? Were they considered to be very important for the organization, or they were not given that height? What do you think? Actually, the human resource was given no weightage practically. Other resources were considered to be far more important. And that is how the earliest perspective of HR developed. That the activity that has to be done, activity related to the production, the work that people had to do was more important for evaluation, not the people behind it. So very little thought and very little emphasis was given to the people part. More emphasis was on the work part, what is getting produced, what is being delivered. Then we will see how the shift of giving more importance to the person behind, it was a gradual shift, and how it happened, we'll talk about that. And when we talk about that, we will also see how the role and function of the HR department, including the personnel who are running the department, that is the HR functionaries, how that also kept on changing. So this is the first area of our discussion. In that era, initial years of after industrial revolution, or even we can say the entire 18th, 19th century, to the extent even to the beginning of the 20th century, means if you can talk about period before the world wars, the first and second, these are the theories and these are the practices that were followed very strongly. See, that time what type of factories were working? We were having that assembly line set up for the first time for production of cars. There were the railroads. There were other manufacturing units that were coming up for steel, etc. So there, how human beings or employees were viewed. We were seeing things like the gentleman Frederick Taylor, who advocated scientific management. Remember, we just said that production, how much you can produce, that was important. So the management was more keen to design workplace and work activities by what they said from a scientific temperament. Scientific how? Because they measured out that how the assembly line should be laid to facilitate higher production. How every individual act the individual was doing at the workplace, how it could be measured. What time you take how you can reduce the time, what are the skills, very minimal but important skills that have to be transferred to you so that you can produce more, do the function more accurately in the least possible time. So these were things of importance. Not the person who is doing it. Forget what his mental state, forget what he or she is feeling. Those were of little consequence. How you move your hand, where the tools are placed, how fast you can pick them up, how fast you can tighten a screw and pass on to the next worker. These were areas of study. So you can very well imagine that there was absolutely no need to engage anybody to look at the human aspect of the business at all. So HR department during that time was very, very small. We will see how small it was. So Frederick Taylor, he advocated scientific management, and by scientific management, like I said, you did time and motion study. We took also the ideas from Charles Babbage, who said division of labor. Divide the work into small bits. Everybody just does his or her own part, become very efficient in it so that he can produce more. I'm using the term he constantly because during that time, the workforce constituted only of males. No question of any female or any other gender working. So that was considered to be very scientific. Give them the requisite skill sets, divide the work among many people, give each one a minuscule part, let him do it as fast as he can do so that production ultimately becomes higher. And this outlook gave rise to what is called the rational economic man theory. Now, what is this rational economic man theory? They said because your pay was related totally to your production, how much you were able to produce, how much your activity was worth. That was the only concern. So human beings or employees got paid more if they worked more or if they produced more. And rational means people can relate very easily, that I have produced more, that is why I'm getting more wages. Somebody has produced less, therefore they will naturally get paid less. So rationally, people are able to think. And money is the end all. People are working only for money. So that was the simple theory or understanding in those days. That is why it was said the rational economic man theory. Production versus payment. The more you produce, the more you get paid. Therefore, should you be wanting to get paid more, you should produce more. And that means you should be willing to follow the management's directions for as long as they wanted you to produce. Very simple and very straightforward theory, so to say. Whether are you feeling good about the production, whether are you fatigued, whether you are mentally stressed, these were of no concern at all. That means your well-being or the emotions or sentiments of the employee was not necessary to be considered at all. As we said, as a resource, your weightage was less even than a machine. For machine, you took more care. You greased them, you gave them some off time, you did some maintenance work. But for human beings, that was lacking. So these are the earliest way of looking at the human resource. Then over a period of time, obviously there will be some changes, and this gentleman came along, Robert Owen. He actually propagated, he was the first, one of the first propagators of that 8-hour work hours theory. Because earlier, you were needed to work for as long as the management wanted you to. This gentleman, Robert Owen, he proposed first that the duration of the work hour should be 8 hours. And he also coined this term vital machine. Just see, the term he is using, vital machine. So man is no better than machine. Only thing, they are important. He's given them some weightage. That is why he used the term vital machine. And he also said managers should be investing, should be more mindful about their workers. So little change in the thinking pattern at how workforce are treated or looked into, that is now starting to be visible. Then comes the time when we had a gentleman called Elton Mayo. He performed a series of experiments at the Western Electrical Company, but this is popularly known as the Hawthorne studies. What Elton Mayo did there, he asked people questions that how do you feel at the workplace? What are your feelings at the workplace? So people probably answered that they feel good when they have good relationships with their co-workers, when there is cordiality. And out of the findings of these Hawthorne studies, Elton Mayo propagated this social man theory. That just like we behave in society and we form relationships with each other, similarly at the workplace also this is true because we are spending so much time there. And a good relationship, or like I said, cordial relationships, they help the performance of the individual. He also found out during the course of all the questioning he did that people do not leave their emotions at home when they come to work. They bring those emotions along, and all the human capabilities like wanting to contribute, wanting to find out whether or not my contributions are making an impact, whether or not I wanting to take responsibility. All these natural things that are related to humans, these are all present in the workplace. So he pointed these out, and unlike this rational economic man, that only money and production, these are related and they only matter to people. This social man aspect, just like in society how we behave, in the workplace also our behavior patterns, our expectations are not much different, and that should be acknowledged. This was a shift in as to how the workers should be looked at the workplace. Is it making sense what I am trying to tell you? Can you make how the shift is slowly taking place? More emphasis to human. Subtly, but slowly it is changing. How the department, I said the department initially was very minuscule. It comprised only of the time officer. Time officer means the person who kept tab of when people are coming in, punching in, and when they left. So number of working hours, that way will be determined. And of course, there would be the manager or the supervisor who would keep count of how much you are producing. And accordingly, by quality and quantity, it will be decided how much wage you are entitled to. So that was all about the HRD department. No leave, no other considerations, no other details need to be kept. So that is how. So only time officer was the face of the HR department, and the supervisor was also there. As the factories became bigger or they became multi-locational, or people started forming nascent unions to voice their demands, the management expanded the HR department, so to say, by including somebody called a welfare secretary. The welfare secretary would be nominated from among the employees, and apparently to look after some welfare of the employees. But basically, this person's job was to improve the management about formation or any design to start unions, etc. So basically, a welfare secretary looked less took less interest in the welfare of the employees. They were more a stooge of the management within the employees. So that is how they perform their duties. But over a period of time, and particularly after the various governments started bringing about laws and regulations to benefit employees or to look after their well-being, this department was expanded, and now it came under somebody called a labor welfare officer. So now it was being headed by a labor welfare officer. Now this labor welfare officer would generally be a person with a background from police or ex-policeman or a military background, something like that, little more educated also. And they were supposed to be keeping a strict eye on how the employees were working, being able to discipline them as required, also taking care that government regulations are being maintained at the workplace, like leave or payment of bonus or, other regulations that governments may have imposed for the welfare of the employees. So he will be aware of them and make sure that they are being implemented. Also, they would take part in negotiations with the employees if it was happening even outside the organization, because sometimes it escalated, negotiations escalated, and they would have talks with tribunals or appellate bodies, all government functionaries. So the labor welfare officer would be someone who was capable of handling these also. So this is how the department is getting expanded and more activities are being added. Then we moved on to PRS, personnel related services, all types of services. And finally, we expanded to HRD activities. HRD activities means activities related to human development. Now, this happened only in the 20th century. We were well into the 20th century when this realization dawned on most organizations that yes, this is an important resource and we need to develop this resource. We've taken people, but we need to be in a process of developing them continuously to take care of our business goals. And by this time, the environment of the business environment had changed significantly. There were a lot of studies that were going on in areas like understanding human psychology. There was the advent of the management sciences, what we know as MBA and all management studies. They had started taking a very central place. So the application of all these now became a reality in organizations also, as more and more management realized that the development of the human resource is a very crucial aspect of managing the workforce, not merely making sure to make their payment, not merely disciplining them, not merely giving them some rudimentary skills and getting work done extracted for them as per my choice, but it now started focusing on the developmental part also of the workforce. So that is how HRD eventually emerged as a significant subsistence of HRM. So even starting with time officers, you can say that it was a human resource department. They were managing human resource. Although the term was hardly ever used, managing human resource, but basically the functions they were doing was same, no matter how crude it was. But the managing of human resources started seeing development of the human resource as one of its very important function. Over a period of time, this shift came. And like I said, because of this behavioral area research, because of the introduction of management practices in running all aspects of the business, including the human resource, that is why this term HRM also became very fit for managing the human resource. So we have got certain traditional activities under HRM and certain developmental activities. The traditional activities will be acquisition, that means recruitment of people, their promotion, administration, salary, discipline, etc. Whereas under the developmental functions of HR, we are focusing more, or HR department focuses more now on individuals' development and growth, counseling them, appraising their abilities, what we call performance appraisal, and helping them plan their career. Okay, so all these have become the parameters under which HRD is functioning or focusing on. Now, next we come to this term. HRM believes that HR or all these HR functions is a line and staff function. This is something we would need to understand clearly, because this is a question that is often asked. That HR department is supposed to be responsible for running the show as far as the employees are concerned, making policies, making policies implemented and all that. But here we are saying that this is not merely the responsibility of the HR department in the organization, rather it is a function of both the line managers and the staff managers. Now, who are the line managers? Line managers, remember I used the term assembly line. So from that context, this line thing comes. Line managers are basically those managers or those supervisors who are running the operation. In case of a bank, who are the line managers? Who do you think would be the line managers? All the field functionaries. For example, the branches, and the branches are headed by branch managers, so they are line managers. Those who run the function of the organization. Look at the functional or operational part. So they are the line managers. Now, there are certain people who sit in the back offices. They are also important part of the organization, but they work from behind the screen. For example, the HR officers, and also certain officers in the various specialized disciplines. For example, IT officers and all. They are behind the scene. They do not make face-to-face interaction with the customers also. So everybody who is working in the background, including the HR managers, they are called staff people, staff managers. So this is the term used to define them. So HR said HR policies are designed and they need to be implemented. So designed by the staff officers, of course, with the help of inputs from the line officers also. But the decision making is at the background level by the staff officers. But the implementation of the HR policies, that to be successful, who will be doing them? The line officers. That is why we cannot say that looking after the human resource is only the function of HR managers. Rather, in order to it to be successful in any organization, it has to be considered or been made successful as a line and staff function. Both the background officers, like the HR officers, are responsible, and for its implementation, the line officers or frontline officers, they are also equally to participate. So, HR, human resource function to be successful, it has to be a combination of both line and staff. HRM develops both the organization and the people. I said in the outset that organization cannot be delinked from its people. So we are taking all possible measures to develop the people. Vis-a-vis that, what happens? The organization as a whole. Now, when we talk about organization, sometimes we think organization is this division and that division and this department and that department and this zone and that zone. No, that is also one way of looking at an organization. HR actually tries to make a bridge between these two thought processes. If individuals or workforce is developing, what ultimately happens? the organization as a whole also develops, isn't it? And the I to see both this in combination. This is what is the function of HR.